The race for Midland Mayor. You're watching the debate live from the Anwar Family Studio at Basin PBS. Moderated by Pat Canty and Mary Kate Hamilton. Presented by Diamondback Energy. Supported by Bird Ranch.
Good evening and welcome to Basin PBS, where we're coming to you live from the Anwar Family Studios. Tonight's program was brought to you by Diamondback Energy and Bird Ranch. I'm Pat Canty. On behalf of Basin PBS, thank you for joining us tonight. We are honored to host the Midland Mayor's Debate. Now, Basin PBS is known for its quality programming, where we provide not only education, but entertainment as well. Tonight's program is a culmination of our mission to educate and to inform. We are thrilled to have a small studio audience tonight and have all of you, our Basin PBS supporters, watching at home on Channel 13 or Channel 36, as well as live on our Facebook page or YouTube channel. Joining me tonight at the moderator's desk is Mary Kate Hamilton with First Alert 7.
Thank you, Pat. Tonight's debate will be 60 minutes in length with one 2-minute break. Our questions were developed by our team of moderators, a small representation from the community, and our Facebook page, where our community will be given the opportunity to submit questions. We will do everything we can to ask those questions. We have asked our candidates to visit the Basin PBS social media page tonight after tonight's program so you yourselves can answer some questions further. Now for our rules. The debate will begin with each candidate in order of how they are listed on the ballot and 2 minutes for your opening remarks. After these opening remarks, the moderators will pose a series of general questions. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to each question. In the event a candidate's answer to a question invokes the name or policy position of one or more opponents, the moderators, at our sole discretion, will give the referenced candidate 30 seconds to respond. It is important to note an individual candidate may also be asked a direct question. That may be because of a statement or a policy position he or she has made in the past. The candidate will have 1 minute to answer that direct question, and the 30-second rebuttal rule will still apply. At the conclusion of the questions, each candidate will be given 2 minutes, time permitting, for closing statements. You do not have to use all of the time you're given, but it is encouraged you do so, as this is your time to let your constituents know your stance on policies. This will be a live broadcast, so flash photography, making loud noises, or disruptive actions or comments is not permitted. If you are part of our live studio audience, photography and video is limited to phone use as to not distract from the program. And now let's get started and meet our candidates for Midland Mayor. Mr. Judd Campbell.
Hello.
And Mayor Lori Blong.
Good evening.
We will now begin with opening statements, and I'd like to remind the candidates, you each will have 2 minutes. Mr. Campbell, your opening statement.
Thank you, Mary Kate. I'm Judd Campbell, and I would like to be your next mayor of Midland. I want to see us have a Midland for Midlanders, and you may have heard me say that phrase, but it's really important that we have a city that works for the people that live here, that we have a city that is affordable, that people can raise their families, that people can have safe neighborhoods, they can have quality infrastructure, they can have the things that make it a good place to live, and that they can afford to stay here. So if they come to make a living here, they can stay here while they're here. If they have a family here and they retire, they can afford to do that also, in a place where they would want to do that exact thing. And so I have some things that are concerning about our current path. We are seeing taxes continue to increase. We've seen our budget increase 30% since 2022. We've seen our debt increase to almost $1 billion when you factor in interest. These trends are really concerning, and we don't need to be doing these things. We can get this under control, and we can have a city where we are providing the things that are important to us, the priorities that matter to Midlanders. Like I said, things like public safety. We want a strong police and fire department. We want strong and reliable infrastructure. And we want a place that has a thriving economy that benefits everybody that lives here. And so those are the things that we need to be working towards. I want to see us make some changes in how that happens. We need to have some transparency in our city that provides for accountability so that we can make sure our taxpayer funds are spent the way that they're supposed to do. And so that includes things like revising our budget process and increasing the oversight and accountability that our city council provides to our city leaders on our budget on a regular basis, so we can make sure that the money is being spent in a way that makes the most sense and providing the best value for Midland. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Campbell. Mayor Blanc.
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for having us. So I want to say thank you to PBS and to CBS 7. We're so thankful for this opportunity to have this debate and this conversation. I'm Lori Blanc, and I am a lifelong Midlander. Was born and raised here, and have chosen to come back with my husband and to raise my own family here. I believe that Midland is the place for families, and we've seen that as we've watched our median age go to 32 years old. We're having our own baby boom in Midland, Texas, with breaking records in births at our hospitals every single month. And so I do believe that the young people of our community need our attention, and we need to be making investments that are going to support us not just today, but decades and generations into the future. I also believe that Midland is for everybody that lives here. And so we have people of all ages and all different kinds of needs, socioeconomic brackets, and all different folks that call Midland their home. And it's important to me, it has been important to me, to provide a Midland that works well for all of those people. As I look over my time as a city council person for 3 years and then these 3 years as mayor, it's been my great honor to serve my hometown. And I do see this as service. This has been something that I have tried to look for problems that our community has faced and then address those problems. And so we've addressed the firefighter pension fund, and we've come to a solution for that. Kicked the can down the road 20 years, and we were finally able to come to a solution. We wanted a Costco, so we went out and got a Costco, and we got that accomplished. We've done so much work on just our roads and our infrastructure, with tens of millions of dollars spent on roads and infrastructure each year. We have really paid attention to the concerns of the community to provide a safe and secure city. We've hired 33 police officers since I've been in office, and we really do view the opportunities in front of Midland as really, really vast. And so I'm thankful to be able to serve as your mayor now, and I look forward to serving it for another term. Thanks so much.
Thank you. So we'll now begin with our first question. The city of Midland has undertaken downtown revitalization efforts, water line upgrades, and upgrades to the Midland International Air and Spaceport, along with an $11 million investment in Midland Lehigh and over $6 million in Midland High. When it comes to spending and investing, what do you believe is most important? And we'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
What is most important that anytime we spend taxpayer money, it needs to be for the benefit of the taxpayers. That has to be at the front of our mind. And so when we're spending money, we have to ask ourselves that question. Is this going to provide a benefit for our Midlanders, for the people that live here? We get sidetracked into things that sound really nice and really exciting, and like things like Costco or a luxury hotel in downtown that are great things in and of themselves, but they are not things that necessarily we need to be spending city taxpayer money on. That's our citizens. We need to protect that. And so we need to be very thoughtful about how that money is spent. So the best way to provide a thriving place in Midland is for us to have an economy that works for everybody, that's fair, that has low taxes, makes it affordable for people to live here so that we can grow and thrive and have a great community with downtown and an airport and all of those things.
Okay. Mayor Blanc.
I believe that when we're looking at what we're going to invest our money in, we should see it truly as an investment. We have a decades-old infrastructure that we're using, and we need to make sure that we're investing into that infrastructure for future decades. We have water pipes that were last touched in the 1950s. That's insufficient. And so we've made vast investments into our infrastructure as a community over the last few years. I believe we should see that investment continue forward. We need to prioritize things that are maintaining and advancing the assets that we own as a city. And our infrastructure are part of the assets that we own. That is one of the most conservative things that we can do, is make sure that we're maintaining the things that we already own well, and then we're making investments into new things into the future. And so those things are planning ahead for development as we see growth around our community. It costs less to plan ahead and to maintain the things that we have than it does to respond to crises. And so I want us to have a prudent and systematic approach to those investments and make sure that we're paying attention to the needs of our community.
Thank you very much. Well, the city of Midland, as we well know, is built on the oil and gas industry and is the most crucial part of our local economy's success. However, in the last year, our local oil and gas industry has been changing rapidly, with companies buying, merging, some laying off employees, as the price of oil struggles to rebound after record highs in 2022 and high prices in 2023. As the industry changes, what is your vision for how the city can change along with it? Mayor Blong, we'll start with you.
We do know that this is a cyclical industry here in Midland, Texas, and I've watched those booms and bust cycles my entire life. And that really is something we have to pay attention to. But we can't do things in fear. We have to do things in prudence. And in decision making, we have to pay attention to the things that are the greatest needs. Those are the things that we need to be addressing. We also have to be paying attention to our fund balance. We have a 203-day fund balance. That means it would sustain our community for 203 days in the case of a crisis. That is compared to a best practice recommendation of 90 to 120 days. And so we are making sure that we have a savings fund balance that is able to sustain the things that we need, but we're also making those investments into things that we will need whether oil prices are high or low. We have to have adequate infrastructure. We have to have adequate investment into our basic community. We have to have police and fire and public safety that sustains our community no matter what the oil price is. And I believe we have to have a community and a city council that are able to accomplish that.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Campbell.
We need to be prioritizing the things that are essential for our people so that when a downturn comes, that we're in a good place, especially when it comes to financially. So there's no reason for us to be taking on debt. And as our debt grows, then that puts us in a terrible position in the case of a downturn. When a downturn comes, as we know, we see people move out of town, we see property values decrease, and our sales tax revenue decrease, and that creates a lot of challenges. Debt payments still have to be made, and so we need to be very conservative about that and make sure we're protecting that. When the mayor talks about having a reserves of 210 days for the year, when the target should be something like 90 to 120, those funds, we need to be really critical about how those funds are being used so that that doesn't become a waste fund or slush fund that is used without having taxpayer attention placed on it, and maybe even giving tax breaks to our citizens instead of building up a fund.
Mayor Blong, you do get 30 seconds to respond if you'd like.
We do have a 203-day fund balance, and that allows us to be able to plan ahead. We are transparent with the way that we spend that money. We have the opportunity for any Midlander to go on and look at our budget and also our audited financials each year. It's on our website, and I would invite every Midlander to familiarize yourself with that and the way that we spend our money.
Next question. The city's budget allocated $99 million for public safety this fiscal year. According to the city, in the first half of 2025, serious crime is down almost 4%, and all crimes are down 1.5% compared to the same period in 2024. How would the city continue to make Midland a safe city in which to live? Mr. Campbell, we'll start with you.
This is a great question, Pat, because safety is extremely important for the people that live here. I hear this so much from people that I talk to, especially during this campaign, that they are concerned about the safety in Midland. And it is not the safe place that it has been for many, many years. So we hear about how the crime rate has gone down since last year, and maybe even for the last couple of years, that trend, and that's a very good trend. But when you look at the decade before 2020, we are still well above that by 50 to 70% in some cases, depending on how you measure the crime rate. It's significant. This is not the safe town that it used to be, and we need to be prioritizing our police and making sure they have the resources and the support to carry out what they need to do to make this a safe place for all Midlanders.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Blong.
We have hired we've hired 33 new police officers, and if you look at the trend of the crime rate, and especially the Part 1 violent crimes over the last couple of years, it's actually down 10%. Now, we have to recognize that that does not mean that crime has gone away in Midland, Texas. We still have a significant amount of work to do, and I'm thankful for our new police chief, Chief Snow, and the work that he has done in leading our police and also for the partnership that we have with several other organizations. We are working well with our Sheriff's Office and with our DPS, with state and federal agencies, making sure that we're able to address the concerns. We do have new concerns in Midland, Texas today that we did not have decades ago. And so we need a police force and we need a city council who are able to lead in the new circumstances in which we find ourselves. We have a trend going. We need to continue that trend, but we need to trust the work that those police officers are doing. We need to continue to invest in them and resource them with the things they need to do their job well.
Thank you very much. As mayor, you will work on a team alongside the Midland City Council and many other city and county entities. How important is it for the mayor to be able to successfully communicate and compromise with council members? Mayor Blong, we'll start with you.
This is something that I've gained a great deal of practice in through COVID. In starting my time on City Council in 2020, had a lot of opportunity for public debate and a lot of opportunity for compromise with other council members. It's something that I've had to learn and work through, and it's something that I can say I've grown in probably more than any other area during my time on City Council. I'll also say working with our county officials and with our state and federal elected representatives and their staffs has been a great joy for me. It was not a thing that I expected when I began, but I've built great rapport with Tom Craddock's office, with Speaker Craddock's office, with Senator Sparks, and with Congressman August Pfluger, and have a lot of opportunity to interface with them. And really, this is a partnership, a collaboration of a lot of different leaders who come together to make Midland a great place. We don't do any of our work in isolation. We do it in collaboration with other people. And so working as a team is something that I have begun to really enjoy. It's part of what I love about this job, and I look forward to getting to do that into the future.
Thank you very much. Mr. Campbell.
I think leadership at the mayor role is extremely important. The mayor represents the people that live in Midland. And so when it comes to any issue that comes before any of our taxing entities, whether it's a county issue, whether it's a hospital issue, a school district issue, a college issue, all of those things, those are Midland issues. And the mayor needs to take a leadership role in addressing those. And so if there are things that are happening, like we had a school bond that came up, as a result of that, we have lost a quality of life, huge quality of life value in Midland with Ranchland Hills that went away. And our mayor and our city council did not have the leadership to speak out about that and to make sure that Midlanders were represented through the bond process and through that whole process. And we need to have leadership in place. Now we're still paying the cost of that. Just a few weeks ago, we're $18 million spent to take care of the roads as a result of that bond. We need to have leadership that goes across the board.
Mayor Blong, you do have 30 seconds to respond.
You know what, we have had a lot of things that have come up in our community, and some of those I've chosen to speak out publicly about, and some of those things I've chosen to remain silent. I believe that we have a city leadership that is bold and willing and able to do that. I myself have been bold and willing and able to do that on some things, but on certain bond issues, I've chosen not to take a public stance. I think that it is inappropriate for me to unduly influence things when we have elected officials and we have voters who are going to be making that decision. It's my job to listen to the will of those voters and to act accordingly.
Thank you very much.
The largest portion of city taxes goes to our public school district, the Midland Independent School District. The health of a city often goes hand in hand with the health and quality of its public schools. As MISD continues to grow, how can the city ensure that it maintains a healthy relationship with the district? We'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
Well, like I just mentioned, it's really important that the mayor is speaking out about what is a concern for Midlanders. This is another topic that not everybody, but many people that I talk to are concerned about what's happening at the schools. And we need the mayor to use that role to represent those concerns when it comes to our school district, working with our school district to make sure that those concerns are being addressed appropriately and in a way that takes care of our people. Education is extremely important, and we've had some very concerning things happen with the schools, and so we need to make sure that our leadership at the city is working with our school district to take care of all of those things.
Thank you. Mayor Blong.
I do believe that working with our school district is critically important. It's something that our entire community should be engaged in. And so if you're not actively engaged in education and in encouraging and uplifting and speaking into the education process here in our community, I would invite you to get involved. I have participated in significant amounts of conversation and work in collaboration with MISD, with Stephanie Howard and with the board. And I continue to do that. I will continue to do that whether I have this role or not, because I do believe that our kids are the foundation of our community. One example of the way that I have collaborated with the MISD is to work with them for a juvenile delinquent problem that we have had in our community with our court system, and to convene a group of folks to come together and say, how are we going to address some of the behavior issues that we see recurring in our school system, but across our community. And so we hosted multiple meetings with our law enforcement, with our judges, and with our school leadership to be able to say, how can we come together and address these concerns productively?
Thank you very much. I believe it was referenced earlier. Surely you each are familiar with the ongoing investigation into South Elementary School and the alleged abuse against special education students there. We do believe this is of great public concern. And while we do understand this is an ongoing investigation, could you provide your thoughts and opinions on how the city should be involved in this case, if at all? Mayor Blong, we'll start with you.
Well, I can tell you how I did get involved in this situation. I immediately spoke with our DA, Glenn Harwood, and I had a subsequent phone call with Dr. Stephanie Howard and a couple of board members to say, talk to me about what's going on here. How can we support what it is that needs to take place to make sure that these children are protected, that their families get the support and the investigation that is required here, and that we do have accountability for the teachers and the educators that are involved. I also put out a statement just expressing my concern and my frustration that this had occurred. But I also do believe that our process, our DA is very faithful to prosecute those who need to be prosecuted, and I believe that he will make sure that those folks see justice. I'm also thankful that MISD has handled a lot of the personnel issues that were related to that. This is an unexcusable, terrible thing that has occurred, and I do not think that any of us should accept it, but I also think that we have to support our school district and our local law enforcement and DA as they work through the process.
Thank you very much. Mr. Campbell.
This is obviously unacceptable, and the mayor needs to be involved with what the school district is doing, with what's happening in the city. When crimes happen in the city, then absolutely the city needs to be involved in what's going on. And so the communication needs to be there with the school district, with our law enforcement, and all along the way to make sure that those offenders are held accountable, that the school district is also held accountable. That's a big thing for me. I think it's important that we are holding, our public officials need to be holding each other accountable. And so we need to have that done in public as much as possible. Those conversations need to be held in public so people understand what's happening. That we don't understand as citizens. We can't have peace about these things, and we can't have an understanding about these things if we don't have transparency and accountability around it. So that's essential.
Okay. Mayor Blong, you were a vocal advocate for, oh, I'm sorry. 7, okay, I'm sorry. Both of you have used the term conservative in both of your campaigns and here tonight. In your mind, what is the true conservatism? And we'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
Well, I am a true conservative. I'm a CPA. Finances are my thing. It's what I understand. It's what makes sense to me. And I think it's really important to have that knowledge, skills, and experience when it comes to the mayor role. If you're going to oversee an organization like the city, you need to be able to understand intimately how the financials work. And I have that knowledge that I think is really important. When it comes to being a conservative, it means on an economic side, we have to allow our economy to work. We have to be free market people. That's what drives us. That's what drives our economy. It's not by picking winners and losers. It's not by corporate socialism where we're going to hand out tens of millions of dollars to those people that are connected to us. That's not conservative. There's nothing conservative about that. And that's a big, big factor that's happening right now in our city organizations, and it's unacceptable. It's not conservative. It's counter to that. And it's counter to the things that we want to see happen. Growth, we've got to have a free market economy.
Mayor Blong.
I do believe that being conservative is multifaceted, and so part of that starts in the family values and in the social conservatism that is a part of my own stance and my family's stance, the things that are well documented about my beliefs. It also is related to the way that we handle our finances as a community, and I believe that there is nothing more conservative than investing in the assets that our city already owns. And so we've done that. We have made investments into some of our parks. We've made investments into our water, into our storm drainage, into roads, and into all of the things that make our community work. It's also very conservative to invest into our police force and into our fire department and to make sure that they have what they need, that we're a fiscally prudent city running forward, to have solved the firefighter pension fund and make sure that we don't have a deficit there going into the future and we're able to meet our obligations. I do believe that I've been a demonstrated conservative, and I look forward to continuing in that capacity.
Thank you very much. Transparency is a buzzword in nearly every local election. I've heard it here tonight, and this one is no exception. So what does the city do well, and how can the city be more transparent with its constituents? Mayor Blong, we'll start with you.
One of the things that we've really worked hard on is my own personal campaign page that I've worked hard to keep live throughout all of my time as mayor and on city council through social media, making sure that I'm communicating things out to the community, that I'm active and available in our community, and that I'm interfacing with people around the community at various different community events. I also think transparency is demonstrated in the way that we have just received a gold star from the state comptroller's office, in the way that we communicate our budget and the way that we communicate our audits. We have put all of those things online. They're extremely accessible, and it's possible for you to take a deep dive into all of the finances of the city, and we invite you to do that. We also hold all of the different budget hearings and the opportunities for people to come and speak publicly and make their voices known during the budget planning process as we're developing that. And so the social media aspect that I've undertaken, that the city has really ramped up, and all of the different things that we're working on, transparency is a process, and I believe we've made an advance in it.
Thank you. Mr. Kimball.
Let me start by saying transparency is really important because you can't have a functioning government without it. You have to have transparency to have accountability. And without accountability, you can't have fiscal responsibility. You can't have a well-functioning government. So it's essential, and that's where it's got to start. And we have failed in so many ways in transparency. So the way that the city works, if you've ever been to a city council meeting, I would encourage you to go. And when you sit up there and you see everything that they go through and the lack of discussion that happens on those things that are presented at council, there is no public discussion about what those things are. Those discussions are had behind closed doors before the meeting in emails, presumably legal ways, before the meeting ever happens. And so, but in a way that the public is not privy to it. And so we don't know what's going on. I could go on 1 minute. It's hard to talk about all of the ways that we could improve transparency, but it's got to be a culture change that happens at our city, and we're missing it right now.
May I have a rebuttal?
Yes, you may. You have 30 seconds.
So we have had a lot of robust discussion. We spoke for over an hour on one item today that there was a lot of disagreement and discussion about. We have regular debates and discussions in our public meetings, and we are making sure that we're having those publicly. We also spend a dramatic amount of time prepping for those meetings individually as council members, with over 1,000 pages often in the packet that we're reviewing, with contracts and with all of the things that are related to what we have to deal with. And we do our homework before we ever get there. And so the things that we're not debating on, it's because we already understand that.
Thank you very much. We need to take a short station break, but when we come back, we'll hear more from our Midland Mayor candidates.
When your business underwrites on Basin PBS, your message is seen where trust lives, alongside programs that inform, inspire, and connect West Texans every day. Hi, I'm Erica with Basin PBS. With packages starting at just $500 a month, it's easy to align your business with programming that makes a real difference in our community. Learn how your business can make a lasting impact. Visit us online, call me, or scan the QR code on your screen.
On Secrets of the Dead, a 30-year excavation uncovers long-lost ruins
So this absolutely has to be the temple.
with a trove of Egyptian artifacts.
The facial characteristics suggest Cleopatra.
Could this site belong to the great queen of Egypt?
Cleopatra is one of the most famous women in ancient history. This temple is hers.
Cleopatra's Last Temple, on Secrets of the Dead.
If somebody doesn't have enough food at some time over the past year due to financial constraints, we would consider them to be food insecure.
How many older adults in your community are experiencing this issue?
Nobody else seems to care about. What can we do to help them out?
Oh, when you talk about rural, it is even worse.
People is leaving. They seem to be a forgotten demographic.
Who will represent District 3? Hear directly from the candidates at the Midland City Council District 3 debate, Wednesday, October 15th at 7 p.m., live on Basin PBS, YouTube, and Facebook. Questions? Submit them via the Basin PBS Facebook page. Join us in person. Studio doors are open from 6 to 6:30. Seating is limited. First come, first served. Don't miss your chance to hear from the candidates and help shape Midland's future. The Midland City Council District 3 debate, presented by Diamondback Energy, supported by Bird Ranch.
Welcome back. We're coming to you live from Basin PBS in the Anwar Family Studio. I'd like to remind our candidates that the rules as mentioned at the beginning of our program still apply. Pat?
Okay, our first question for the second round. The city has voted to lower taxes 3 years in a row. With the city still carrying debt and spending set to outpace revenue by 2030, are lower taxes the solution? Are there ways to increase city revenue without increasing taxes? And can the city feasibly continue its trend of lowering taxes each year? We'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
Let me first clarify that we have not lowered taxes. The tax rate was decreased, but the taxes were not. And so we have to be honest about what we're doing. It's a big issue that I have with the way our city runs, is that we are not honest about our taxes, about other things too, but our taxes. We had a tax increase this year, even though the rate went down. We have lots of funds that are available. There is room in our budget to meet all of the needs that we have, but we need to be responsible about how the spending is going. It's not a revenue issue, it's a spending issue. And so we have to get our arms around that. Again, as a CPA, that's something that I bring to the table to be able to make those decisions, ask the questions that need to be asked so that we can make those decisions and we can spend our money, the money that we have, the assets and resources that the city has right now. We don't need to be raising taxes. We need to be getting those things under control.
So can you, real briefly, when we talk about taxes not being lowered, can you just clarify that, go in a little deeper into that?
I'd be glad to. So the way property taxes work is you have a property tax rate and you have your value. The appraisal district sets the values. The appraisal district then gives those values to the city, and the city comes up with a rate to target a certain amount of revenue. And so if the values go up, the city can lower their rate, but it's still a tax increase, because if your property value goes up more than what your tax rate went down, which is what happened this year, then you've got a tax increase. And so we need to be clear about the dollars versus the rate, and decreasing the rate is really a meaningless thing to do.
Okay. Mayor Blong, we're going to go ahead and give you, since I did a follow-up with Mr. Campbell, we're going to give you 1 minute and 30 seconds for your answer.
Well, I appreciate this question. I think it's very important. We have spent a lot of time making sure that we're able to keep our tax rate as low as possible over the last several years. I really think this has been a priority for the life of Midland. Mayor Angelo and I have spoken about this at length. It's been a priority for us to keep our tax rate as low as possible for decades in Midland, Texas. I think that part of what we need to make sure that we're paying attention to is the revenue recapture. We've had over $118 million of revenue recapture in efficiencies found, our own mini Doge Midland in the last couple of years, as we have made sure to get revenues back from different parts of our community where we found those efficiencies. And so I can go into greater detail at another time about that. But I would also say we've identified the revenue from drilling under Midland Air Park. The city of Midland purchased those minerals in 1942, and a Obama era law was passed in 2012 that restricts the revenues from those minerals to Midland Air Park. That means they are restricted to our airport system. I believe that is federal overreach, and this is something that I've gone to battle with DC and with the FAA to make sure that we can bring those revenues back to our community. We can use those revenues to be able to address the needs that really do exist in our community for water infrastructure and for future stabilization fund. And so those are the kinds of ways that we are able to keep our tax rate as low as possible by finding revenues that we can bring into our community to offset the costs that we have to be able to sustain a growing community. And we have prioritized those things.
Thank you. As of May of 2025, the city of Midland has a median age of 31.6 years. It's the largest single age group, or I should say the largest single age group is the 0 to 4 age group. And through July of 2025, Midland Memorial Hospital is on pace to record over 3,000 births this year. That's for the first time since at least 2015. How can city leaders make sure they're catering to this demographic of parents and young children that make up so much of our population? Mayor Blong, we'll start with you.
So I think that we have to balance the needs of all of our community, and we can't talk about the needs of one part of our community without considering the needs of all of our community. And so I think we first start there. But I do think we need to recognize that our school system is a significant need in our community. And I recognize the mayor does not have purview there, but we need to recognize that a lot of our time and investment and our attention needs to be on our school children and their teachers and supporting our school district. I also believe that we need to be making sure that we're paying attention to the amenities that help those families to thrive and flourish in this community. They have demonstrated that they want to live here. If our median age has continued to get lower, that means that people do actually want to live in Midland, Texas. We need to make sure that we're providing amenities that facilitate their success and the long-term flourishing of those families. That's why we've prioritized public-private partnerships like the Midland Athletic Syndicate. We've prioritized investment in 62 new soccer fields in Beale Park. We're recognizing the needs of this community, and we're taking steps to invest in things and to bring in private investment to offset the public cost.
Thank you very much. Mr. Kimball.
We need to make sure, this is what it all comes down to, is making sure that Midland works for the people that live here. We need to make sure that our taxes are as low as possible. We need to make sure we have safe neighborhoods so our police and fire department is taken care of and prioritized appropriately, that we have strong infrastructure. We have to be doing those things, and that our economy is a fair and free economy and not one that is catered to or that is driven by corporate socialism and cronyism. Those are things that work against families, it works against people that live here, and it makes it hard for people, if they do raise a family here, to be able to stay if their family decides to stay here and retire here. So we have to make sure that we're doing the things, those core things. If we're doing those things right, then everything else is going to fall into place. And so that's where our priorities need to be, and that's where I would focus them.
Okay. So just kind of to dovetail off Mary Kate's question, on the other hand, across the nation, many of our senior communities are suffering on fixed incomes as the cost of living continues to rise. So how can the city ensure that the needs of our senior population are being considered? So I'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
Well, I'm going to start sounding like a broken record, but the issues that affect all of these different parts of our community, it's all of the same, right? We need to make sure that we're making this a place that's affordable for everybody. I hear from people that have lived here, that have raised a family here, that have made a career here, and then they retire and they can't afford to stay here. And even though their family may be here, if they do decide to stay here, it can be a real struggle. And when we raise taxes and when we're not honest about that, then we're not making good decisions financially. We're not doing the things that are going to make it possible for our seniors to be able to have a good place to retire. So all of these things, again, if we're doing these core things, if we're prioritizing things in the right way, everything else is going to fall into place.
Thank you. Mayor Blong.
I do want to acknowledge the comments about the lowering the tax rate versus lowering taxes. I've been very clear only to say that we've lowered the tax rate. With the tax rate lowering of this year, the average homeowner would have seen a $7 increase to their taxes to be able to sustain the budget that we have this year. And so we are being honest about those things, and we are recognizing that. I think that's part of what we need to do. But in another way that we address the senior citizens and the folks that have retired and live on a fixed income is through partnerships with our nonprofit community. We have a very robust nonprofit community here in Midland. We're very thankful to have the philanthropy and just the idealism of supporting our neighbors and caring well for the people that are around us. Love Midland is a nonprofit that has been stood up to meet the needs of a lot of our community members. They just had a great weekend that I was able to be a part of a couple of weeks ago. We have so many churches and other groups that I interface with regularly with their pastors and with their different benevolence teams. And I think that we have to hold hands with those as partners.
Thank you.
Thank you. The Midland Development Corporation has supported numerous large-scale business developments, including the Midland Costco, the Omni Hotel, and AST Space Mobile, all projected to bring hundreds of jobs to the area and dollars as well. What does the MDC do well, and what, if anything, would either of you change about its structure or operations? Mayor Blong, we'll start with you.
The Midland Development Corporation was voted into existence, and it uses 1/4 cent of our sales tax. That's about $16 million of revenue that it collects this year. And so that's compared to almost $500 million of the total city budget. The MDC has made great strides in investment. One investment I'd like to highlight is the design plans for Todd Drive overpass and then the 158 and Wadley intersection. We've invested a little over $1 million in those, and we're bringing $32 million of investment back into our community. That's double the total revenue stream of the MDC as it stands. That happened in 1 year with one investment. And so I'm really proud of those kinds of investments into infrastructure. That has major ripple effects into the economic development of our area in opening up those intersections for development. And it really does multiply our dollars and make them go further.
Thank you very much. Mr. Campbell.
I have a lot of concerns about the MDC. I'll start with where she finished, that those infrastructure investments could be made by the city if the city had the funds to be able to do that. So that's not a win for the MDC. It's something that the MDC was used to do on behalf of the city. The MDC has failed over and over and over again. The largest project to date that the MDC has done is a hotel, a luxury hotel in downtown Midland that is outside of the scope, as the mayor mentioned. The MDC was voted in by the citizens of Midland to do manufacturing and industrial projects that are going to stabilize and diversify our economy. A luxury hotel, 25% of all of the funds ever dispersed from MDC have gone to this single project, and this single project is dependent on the oil and gas industry. It doesn't diversify, it doesn't stabilize, and it's a terrible financial investment besides that. So we've got to be really, really
Before I give Mayor Blong a chance for a rebuttal, I do just want to clarify, you didn't answer exactly the question. What would you change about its structure or operations? We'll put 30 seconds for that.
Well, there's a couple of things I'd like to see done. First is when a business is interested in MDC funds, then we should have an online application process where there's a record of that, and we can make sure that it's getting to the proper people and an evaluation has happened, and we're not screening people out because we don't know them, we don't have those connections, and so we need to make sure it's fair. Another thing, we need to make sure it's transparent. I would move the meetings from the Chamber of Commerce, which is where they're held now, into council chambers so that citizens can come more easily and see what's happening and understand that.
Thank you for clarifying. And Mayor Blong, you have 30 seconds to respond.
So I do believe that the investment in the Omni Hotel is actually an investment in a parking garage. So the MDC funds are primarily being used for 800 spaces for a parking garage in downtown Midland, which is desperately needed for our community. And so we need to make sure that we're talking about apples to oranges. I would also say we need to turn our attention in the future to bringing in some cold storage. That is a manufacturing component or a storage facility that can help us to resource a lot of our other community. We have other projects that are in the works. We also have national defense projects that we need to be identifying.
Thank you.
So in response to national trend years in the making, there are quite a few people, a growing number actually, that are arguing that we need to bring civility back to politics. Do you believe you've run a civil campaign? And do you have the ability to work alongside city employees and or elected officials who may not have the same opinions that you do? Okay, we'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
Certainly, I've run a civil campaign. I speak the truth, and I am an advocate for the truth. We need to be honest about what's going on. It is not civil to be friendly and lie. That is not a good thing for us to be doing. And we have city leaders that do that. They say it with a smile on their face and they pretend like they're being nice to you, but they're being dishonest. And that is not respectful and it's not civil. And so if I say something that's true that you don't want to hear, then that is not me being uncivil, but that is me being honest. And we need honest. If we're going to have an effective leader, we're going to have an effective government, that is essential. And so that's why we talk about transparency and accountability. Those things are uncomfortable, and it may make people uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean that it's uncivil. It doesn't mean that it's mean or anything like that. It's a good thing. That is good. We need to be honest and open. You look at somebody like Charlie Kirk as a perfect example of what it means to be honest. He ruffled a lot of feathers, and he made a lot of people mad, and a lot of people didn't like what he had to say, but he was not uncivil. He was good.
Thank you. Mayor Blum.
Yes, I do believe that we have run a civil campaign, and I've, gotten to serve in this role for the last 6 years and had a lot of opportunity to have a lot of criticism, to experience what that criticism is, and to endeavor to treat people the way that I would want to be treated. It's a value, a core value for me to treat people the way that I want to be treated, to make sure that I'm allowing people to speak, but also that I'm following the law in the way that I administrate meetings. Leading meetings as mayor is something that I have learned to really enjoy, to be able to have a civil discourse and to be able to allow people to speak, but also to continue to hold to the structure and the integrity of the process. And so decorum, and that is really important to me. I do believe that we need greater accountability from the voting public for uncivil activities that are taking place on social media and other places, but that is not where I have seen my role. I believe my role is to lead well and to make sure that I'm giving people an opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Midland's water woes are nothing new and ongoing. What is the current status of the T-Bar Ranch water project, and how can the city continue to diversify its water supply and ensure stability for generations to come? Mayor Blong, we'll start with you.
T-Bar is a water field that was purchased decades ago by a forward-thinking city council and mayor, I believe under Mayor Ed Magruder, if I'm not mistaken. And that foresight that they had to purchase that water, combined with the foresight of a council in the early 2000s to be able to build a pipeline to quickly get that water to town, really have allowed us to continue to sustain our population in Midland. We would not have the population in Midland today that we have if we didn't have T-Bar. And so we're thankful for their foresight. That water system, we have built in some redundancy in the last year because of some problems that were identified earlier in 2025. And so we're continuing to see that go forward. We're also investing in some advanced water treatment for Paul Davis, the well field that we have in Martin County. That water is currently unusable because it doesn't have the treatment that is necessary. And so we're making some investments and possibly even looking into some partnerships with some private companies that can help us treat that water to a higher standard, bring that to Midland, really to improve our water quality, but also to improve our water supply.
Mr. Campbell.
Water is obviously a very critical for Midland. We have to make sure that we're taking care of our water and doing what needs to be done. And again, we can take care of these things if we're managing our resources and managing our finances appropriately and well. And so we need to be, again, as I say, we've got to be focusing on our priorities. If we're doing those core things right, then we are going to be able to take care of our water issues. And so that's what I would do as mayor, is make sure that we're doing those things. Maintenance has to be done ahead of time. When we're catching things up after they've gone into disrepair, that costs more money. And we have a history of that in Midland, where we let things go and we don't maintain them as they go. And that's a lack of conservatism, it's a lack of fiscal responsibility, and it's unacceptable, and I wouldn't allow that as mayor.
Okay. As a figurehead for Midland, it's important for our leaders to advocate on the city's behalf. What are the issues you consider particularly important on the state and federal level, and how would you lobby for those issues at scale? We'll start with you, Mr. Campbell.
Well, my priorities are going to be what's happening in Midland, right? So I like to see things that are happening nationally. I think we see a trend going that's beneficial for us as a country. I like to see us freedom. I like to see low taxes. I like to see the things that I'm talking about for Midland. But my focus is going to be on taking care of those things here in Midland because that's where my responsibility rests. If there are issues that come up, obviously I'm going to address those. But we need to be taking care of our core priorities. Again, if we're doing our core priorities and not distracted by other things that might be exciting and might be interesting, but aren't really benefiting Midlanders, then we're not doing what we need to be doing.
Okay, thank you. And Mayor Blong?
I've had the opportunity to go to Austin and testify and then also go to DC and testify on various different issues. Senate Bill 7 is a water bill that is actually going to be on the ballot for a public vote this November, but that is allowing for us to have state resources to build out some of these water assets. This very much impacts Midland, and it was necessary for me to go to Austin and advocate for that project because we have the potential to bring in millions, possibly billions of dollars over the life of that fund. But we need to make sure that our state representatives understand the need here in our community for that state investment in long-term water supply. We're also advocating and working with August Pfluger and with Senator Cruz's office on bringing a solution for this Midland Air Park mineral revenue problem that we face. And that advocacy is important. We've had the opportunity to go and advocate for Interstate 27, and Interstate 14, both of which have been designated as future interstate routes through Midland during my time as mayor. And I've had the opportunity to work closely with them on that project.
Thank you.
This next question is only for Mayor Blong, and the following question will only be for Mr. Campbell. Mayor Blong, the city released a statement regarding open records requests for financial statements for city-issued credit cards. According to the city, a single line was omitted due to personal health information of an employee. Can you then answer whether that employee then used a city-issued credit card for purchases regarding their own personal health? This could be a yes or a no answer, or you can elaborate further.
So let me start by saying that it was a different city employee that used the credit card for a different employee's medical need. And I can also tell you, city council members and the mayor do not have credit cards. That is something that I want to dispel. We do not have credit cards, and so these are only the credit cards of senior staff leadership that are using those. And the city attorney's office manages the FOIA process, the open records request process, and they're required to meet state and federal guidelines for those open records requests. Our city attorney's office met those guidelines, and part of those guidelines require them to restrict the documentation about private medical information. And so that's why that was sent to the Attorney General's office, and then everything else that was responsive to the request was remitted to the people who requested it.
Thank you very much for answering that. And Mr. Campbell, you've long been known for your service and dedication to the city of Odessa, including serving as the Odessa Chamber of Commerce's president just last year. How has that affected your decision to become involved in the city of Midland's government as mayor?
My experience in Odessa is an asset to the city of Midland. It's given me insight and perspective on other ways that things can be done. I'll take, for example, the way that the Odessa Development Corporation works compared to the Midland Development Corporation is very different, vastly different. They are both type A corporations, but the way those operate is vastly different. The way the city has operated has been very different. Things like having meetings at night where citizens can attend those meetings, it makes it more accessible. The conversations that happen in some of those meetings at the Odessa the Odessa City Council, also much more open discussion. The Odessa Development Corporation. Also, all of those things give me a different perspective. Not that Odessa does things right and Midland doesn't, but that it gives me another way of looking at those things, and that perspective is going to be an asset for Midland when I'm mayor.
Thank you very much. It is now time for our closing statements. Each candidate will have 2 minutes, time permitting, for their closing statement. I do believe we have time for 2 minutes each, if I could get a signal there. Yes, we do. Thank you very much. And we'll start with you, Mr. Campbell, 2 minutes.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for listening, for paying attention to this and hearing what we have to say. This is important. Your local elections are the most important elections. It's where your voice is the loudest. And so I ask you to go vote. Early voting starts on October 20th. Election Day is November 4th. My website is juddformidland.com. Please go visit that. This is giving you just a very brief taste of the issues that are going on. You can see more about it there. You can reach out to me. I would love to hear from you. I love to hear from people. I love to hear what you're concerned about. One of the things that's been really important to me from the start of this campaign is that this is a voter-driven campaign. If you've seen my signs, there's a blank on my sign where you can write. I want you to take a Sharpie and write on there what it is that's important to you. What are you concerned about? Because that's what this is about, is that we have a Midland for Midlanders and that we're addressing the needs of our citizens. And so I want to hear from you. I want this to work for all of us. Some key things I want to mention, like I said, there's a lot that's been going on tonight, but I want to see us implement quarterly budget to actual reviews at the city council level. We need to have oversight there on how we're spending our money. We need to have flexible meeting times so that people can come to meetings when it's best for them and they can be able to participate. That increases transparency and allows us to do the things that is good for Midland. We need to rein in the abuse of executive sessions. Executive sessions are where we have secret meetings, where city council has secret meetings that isn't open to the public. We need to keep those to an absolute minimum, and we need to have walking quorums be eliminated. We cannot be having conversations about public items outside of public meetings. People need to know what's going on. We need to have accountability. We need to have oversight. We need to have a Midland that's going to work for everybody. That's the goal of all of this, is that we have a Midland that works for Midlanders, and that's what I want to see us do. We can do it. It's all right there in front of us.
Thank you,
Vote
Mr.
for me.
Campbell.
Thank you so much.
And Mayor Blanc, 2 minutes.
I initially ran for city council and then subsequently for mayor because I saw concerns and problems within our community that I wanted to be able to address. During my time on city council and as your mayor, I have prioritized solutions. We have looked for solutions to problems that have plagued us, and we've implemented a strategic plan that helps to guide and to govern the decisions that we're making, putting those decisions through a matrix that help us to understand what is a priority and what is something that is a distraction. That strategic plan has been very important for us. We've addressed our firefighter pension fund. That was a problem that had grown over 20 years and nobody else was willing to touch it. And we did the hard work to get that accomplished with the help of our firefighters. We've addressed so many of the concerns with over $100 million of investment in our infrastructure just in the last couple of years. These are deep needs for our community, and we've been so thankful. My family and I have been so thankful to serve as your mayor. This is something that I don't take lightly, and I want to make sure that we understand that conservative values mean conservative spending and family values. We are a community that cares well for people, and we need to make sure that our investments into our community sustain those kinds of values. It's been a priority to me to help to secure our water over the next 100 years. And so with the acquisition of the Fort Stockton Holdings and then the renegotiation of one of our water contracts, we've saved taxpayers over $100 million over the life of that contract, and we've prolonged our water utility into the future. These are things that really matter to the families and to the people that will call Midland home, not just today or tomorrow, but decades into the future. When I leave my time as Midland's mayor, I want to be able to look back and say that I left it better than I found it, that we have made improvements, that my children can be proud of the work that we've done here together, and that your children can thrive here in a future Midland as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much to both Mayor Blanc and to Mr. Campbell. Thanks for being here today and answering our questions so candidly. We do want to remind our viewers, first of all, thank you for joining us here tonight. We will have another debate tomorrow night at the exact same time, 7 o'clock, this for City Council. Tomorrow night we have incumbent Jack Ladd, as well as Shandy Williams and Cheston Blank. Tomorrow's going to be another great debate. Again, thanks so much for supporting us, and thank you to our candidates who participated here tonight.
Thank you. And with that, we conclude tonight's debate. I'd like to thank all of our candidates once again for participating tonight. You know, this is important. I know it's been a long debate, a long campaign, and oftentimes it's probably gotten pretty stressful, but I appreciate you taking the time to be here tonight with us and then answer these questions. I think you do your citizenry a great service. So for you all out there, make sure you join us Wednesday, October the 15th, starting at 7 p.m. for the Midland District 3 debate. Now, we urge all registered voters to cast your ballots. Early voting begins on Monday, October the 20th. Remember, mark your calendar, October the 20th, and will continue until Friday, October 31st. Please check the voting office for polling stations and hours of operation. There's a different twist this year. There's no early voting on weekends. So remember that, no early voting on weekends. We would also like to thank Diamondback Energy and Bird Ranch once again for your generous sponsorship of tonight's program. You know, we'd also like to thank the Elizabeth Yeager family and the Anwar family for their continued support of Basin PBS. You know, programs like this are possible because of you, our members and viewers. If you aren't a member and would like to become one, please, please, please visit basinpbs.org for details. I'd also like to thank the Basin PBS board, our staff, and our crew for tonight's program. They work long hours and long and thankless hours, and believe me, they don't get rich quick doing it. So any way you can do to say your thanks to them, especially by becoming a member to this station, would be greatly appreciated. I'm Pat Canty, and on behalf of Basin PBS and my co-moderator, Mary Kate Hamilton, with First Alert 7, thank you and good night.
Major support for American Masters provided by...
For over 65 years, AARP has empowered people to choose how they live as they age. As a nationwide champion, we advocate for better health, financial security, and stronger communities.